All right. Hello, and welcome to today's ACM Tech Talk. This webcast is part of ACM's commitment to lifelong learning and professional development, serving a global membership of computing professionals and students. I'm Victor Yocco, Director of Research and Strategy at Allelo Design. My background is in communication and psychology, and I frequently write and speak about applying these disciplines to UX research and design. I've also authored many articles as well as the book Design for the Mind. You can learn more about my background in the resources section of your console. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with ACM or what it has to offer, here's more information. ACM offers educational and professional development resources that bolster skills and enhance career opportunities. You can see some of the highlights on your screen. ACM provides access to the ACM Digital Library, the world's most comprehensive database of computer literature, leading publications and global conferences that draw top experts on a broad spectrum of computing topics, support for education and research, including curriculum development, teacher training, the ACM Turing and ACM Prize in Computing Awards, and the ACM Code of Ethics, a collection of principles and guidelines designed to help computing professionals make ethically responsible decisions in professional practice. Before we get started, we'd like to quickly mention a few housekeeping items shown on the slide in front of you. If you have questions at any time, please type them in using Zoom's Q&A button. We'll organize the questions as Angelica speaks, and I'll try to get to as many as possible. The session is being recorded and will be archived. You'll receive an email notification when it becomes available. And check learning.acm.org for updates on this and other upcoming webcasts. At the end of the presentation, you'll see a survey open on your screen. Please take a minute to fill it out to help us improve our tech talks. Now, today's presentation is Applying Cinematic Techniques to Data Storytelling with Angelica Lo Duca. Angelica Lo Duca is a researcher at the Institute of Informatics and Telematics of the National Research Council, Italy. She is also an adjunct professor of data journalism at the University of Pisa. She has published more than 60 scientific papers at national and international conferences and journals. She is the author of the book Comet for Data Science, co-author of Learning and Operating Presto, Data Storytelling with Altair and AI, and Become a Great Data Storyteller. Angelica is also my friend, and I had the privilege of serving as a technical editor on her most recent book, Become a Great Storyteller. So Angelica, without further ado, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Victor, for the introduction. Just a moment. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. More than 10 years ago, I went to Bonn to attend a scientific conference and present a paper in the form of a poster about underwater acoustic networks. I had just 1 minute on the stage to present my poster and invite the audience to come and discuss the poster, possible collaborations with me, and further research. However, when I went on the stage, I tried to concentrate everything in that single minute. I prepared a slide similar to this one, although this is done now with ChatGPT, but the idea is similar. And this poster, this slide contained many charts. I began to discuss everything. I wanted to concentrate everything in that minute but the minute elapsed so quickly that the result was terrible. 1 minute, tons of charts. No one cared. No one came to my poster. At the end of the session, I thought that my research was useless, that everything I had done was not important. But indeed, this wasn't true, because over the years, I discovered that data is not enough. You can't start from your data. Present raw charts that you have elaborated in some way, and then pretend that your audience understands them. It's impossible. You have to change your mind, and you have to tell your audience a story. In this way, your story will understand and will make decisions based on your data and based on your story. This is because, oh, sorry, what is the problem? Yeah, okay. This is because stories speak at 3 levels. All the people since their childhood have listened to story. We love stories, and we can interpret them because stories speak at 3 levels. The first level is at the level of stomach, which corresponds to the instinctive level. The audience understands the story without a detailed reflection. Think about the last movie you have watched. The first level of interaction with the movie is at the instinctive level. You understand the story, and you react based on your instinct. The second level is at the heart, which corresponds to the affective level. The audience engages with the story. Think about the last movie that you have watched. You felt some feelings. You cried, you laughed, everything. And the final level is the level of brain, which corresponds to behavioral level, where the audience acts based on the story. The audience understands the story, the deep meaning of your story, and decides to act based on the message you convey with your story. Okay, but this can be true for traditional stories, for novels, for movies. But how can we tell data-driven stories? That are stories that are anchored to data. And here is where data storytelling comes. Data storytelling is communicating the results of your data analysis process to an audience through a story. Some people think that data storytelling is an enhanced data visualization, but indeed this is not true. Data storytelling is more, because it transforms your raw data into a story. And you use data storytelling to communicate your data through a story. Because this is possible because behind every data point, there are people. And people have stories to tell. Always remember that behind the data, there are always people. Let's consider this. 10 is a number. Yes, it's simple. But numbers do not tell stories. But if you say 10 apples, this is a data point. You are specifying not only a number, but you are associating that number with a category. Apples, something. A data point tells a story. For example, these 10 apples can mean everything. For example, this could mean this year, my apple tree has 10 more apples than last year. And this is a story, a short story, a flat story, but it's a story. But the problem here is how can we structure a data-driven story? Okay, let's borrow the structure of a story from the cinema, because the idea is to not reinvent the wheel and to take something reliable and to apply this reliable structure also to data storytelling. Every story is about a hero wanting something, but a problem prevents them from reaching it. This is the classical story structure, which recognizes a hero, something which is the object of desire, and a problem. If you think all the movies or novels that you have read or watched, they all have this structure. You have a hero who wants to reach an object of desire, but a problem prevents the hero from reaching it. And the story is about the hero who tries to solve this problem to reach the object of desire. And there are different ways to organize this simple story. And for example, you have the hero journey, the Freytag pyramid, and so on. But I think that the simplest way is the three-act structure. Let's see it. This three-act structure obviously organizes the story in 3 acts. In the first act, which is the setup, you explain the context and present the hero and the object of desire. This is clear. In the second act, you present the problem, explain the problem the hero has. And finally, in the third act, you give the solution. Explain how or if the hero solves the problem and reaches the object of desire. At the end of the story, the hero may reach or not the object of desire. And this is true not only for movies or novels, but also for data. And now we will see how. Let's consider this simple example to have an idea of the story structure practically in a real world scenario without data. You have these 3 acts, and the story structure is more or less this. You see that the most high point of the story is here in the 3rd act. And we will see soon. I have taken this example from a real experience that happened to me last summer. My son, Antonio, who was last summer, who was 6 years old, wanted to learn how to ride the bike without training wheels. And so he is the hero of the story, and the problem he had was this. He wants to ride the bike without training wheels. This is also the first plot point in a classical story. The moment when the hero for the first time meets the problem. Then Antonio meets his antagonist, which is the fear of falling. And this is the second plot point of the story. Next, there is the Dark Knight, or third plot point, when Antonio fights against fear and ultimately decides that he will make it. Just at the highest point of the story, there is the climax, when Antonio rides the bike without training wheels. And finally, there is the conclusion. This story, this structure, which is typical of movies, can be mapped also to data. First of all, who is the hero in a data-driven story? Because a story is about a hero, so we need to extract a hero from data. And the audience is not the hero. I'm sorry. The data storyteller is not the hero. I'm sorry. The hero is extracted from the data. And this makes your story not fictional, but real. If you anchor your hero to the data, your story is not a fiction. It's not something fake, it's real. It represents the truth, which is linked to your data. You have two types of heroes in data-driven stories. The first one is a human, which is directly connected to people, such as students, patients, organizations, countries. And you have a second type of hero, non-human, indirectly connected to people, such as products, the temperature, trains, or whatever you want. But how can we extract practically the hero? Let's see an example. Consider the global surface temperature anomalies. This data is extracted from NOAA. And you see that since 1977, there is an increasing value in temperature. And in 2021, this temperature has reached 1.2 degrees. These temperature anomalies, sorry. Here, the hero of your story is the temperature. Let's consider another example, the average number of books read per person in my library in a year. In this case, the hero are the people who frequent my library. Just for curiosity, I have generated this image with the new version of ChatGPT images. So it's fantastic. Let's think about generating images directly from data using ChatGPT. This is something exceptional. I suggest you to try this feature. Maybe we can save time while building our charts. Who knows? Apart from this, in this case, we have said that the hero here are the people who frequent my library. Yes, I have proposed the two different heroes, but how can we extract practically a hero from data? Indeed, there is not a real way, but in my book, I have proposed a new strategy, which is the Data Hero Humanity Matrix. Let's start with data. And we can have two types of data, qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative data includes experiences, opinions, perceptions, or behaviors of people, while qualitative data contain a description of objects, environments, events, processes, or systems, yes. Regarding quantitative data, instead, you can have performance measures, tests, results, or demographic statistics, or measurements of phenomena. If you look at this table, you can see that in the second column, you have human data, data related to humans, experiences, opinions, performance measures, and so on. While in the third column, you have non-human data. And this enables you to define if the hero is human or not human. You can use this table, this matrix, to establish if you are dealing with a human or not human hero. Let's consider the previous example. Here you have the global surface temperature anomalies, and we have said that the hero is the temperature. Here you are talking about the measurements of a phenomenon. You have a quantitative data, and you are measuring a phenomena. Yes, in this case, your hero is non-human. Let's go back to the other case, the average number of books read per person in my library in a year. In this case, the hero is the people who frequent my library. In this case, you have performance measures, test results, or demographic statistics, and this means that you have a human hero. So you can distinguish between the human or non-human hero simply mapping your data into this table, the Data Hero Humanity Matrix. But who specifically is the hero? A single person, a group of people, an organization? In this case, you can use the Data Hero Concreteness Matrix. But I don't want to bother you with another matrix, and there is not time to discuss it. You can find more information in my book, Become a Great Data Storyteller. The idea is to anchor your hero to the data. Every hero has a sidekick or enforces the hero presence. Also in movies, there is a sidekick. A sidekick can be anything, a person, an animal, a pet, a force of the nature, or whatever you want, an object. But in the case of data, the sidekick is the human case behind your data. This means that, for example, in the case of the global surface temperature anomalies, your sidekick should be a real person, such as a climate change expert, or your friend experiencing temperature changes, such as floods to high temperature. And the ideal case could be when you can bring this person with you when presenting your data as a witness, because they reinforce the concept and usually makes the hero more real, more linked to the real life. In the case, In the case of the average number of books read per person in my library in a year, the sidekick could be a real reader who frequents the library. And this reader brings their experience in the story. We have said that every story is about a hero wanting something, an object of desire, but the problem prevents them from reaching it. Okay, what is this something, the object of desire? How can we extract this something from the data? Because the hero is extracted from the data. But the object of desire, what about it? In this case, the object of desire is keeping temperature values constant over the years. In this other case, the object of desire is increasing the average number of read books per person. So the object of desire is what the hero wants. Okay. Then there is another part in the story. We have said that every story is about a hero wanting something, the object of desire, but the problem prevents them from reaching it. Let's talk about the problem. The problem is the insight extracted from your data. I think that this is a wonderful thing, because this aspect of the story links your story to your data exploration and analysis part. The insight is what you have discovered analyzing your data. Let's look at this example about global surface temperature anomalies. Here, the insight is that the temperature is increasing over the years. And this is a problem which prevents the temperature hero to keep its value constant over the years. Regarding this second example, the average number of books read per person in my library in a year, the problem is that, if you look at this data, is that since 2022, the average number of books read per person is decreasing. This is a problem. If you look here, this is a problem. And so you have to tell this story about the hero wanting something, but the problem prevents them to reaching it. And the problem is caused by the antagonist. The antagonist, so, is the cause of your problem. In this case, the antagonist may be the human activity. For example, the CO2 emissions, gas emissions. While in this second case, the antagonist could be a rising interest towards movies, for example. People watch movies and don't read books. Or another example could be that the people go to another library. So structuring your data as a story enables you to better understand your data. Because you have to formulate your data as a story, and you must understand your data deeply. If you want to tell a good story, you must know your data very well. Let's look just for curiosity at the full structure of a data story. You have the first act, the second act, and the third act. The first act includes all these elements. The second act includes all these elements, and the third act includes all these elements. We don't go into details because we don't have the time, but we can say that in the first act, you present the hero, their goals, and their object of desire. In the second act, you present the antagonist. And in the third act, you present the moment when the hero goals is met or lost. This is the final battle between the hero and the antagonist. Strictly speaking, we can imagine this climax as the moment when you show for example, a chart which combines the hero and the antagonist and tells who wins the battle. Okay, I want to share with you this wonderful sentence by Blaise Pascal. If I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. And brevity takes time. By Matthew Dix, who is the author of Storyworthy, a wonderful book I'm currently reading, and I suggest you to read this book. Brevity takes time. Consider this example. This example shows a row chart which takes a few minutes to draw it. You take your data, you ask a library such as Altair, Matplotlib, or a tool that you use to plot it. And you have ready your chart. This is a very fast graph construction. But if you look at this chart, you don't understand anything. If I had more time, I would have plotted a better graph. Okay? And, for example, I could have produced a graph like this one. And this example is taken from my other book, Data Storytelling with Altair and AI. This is to say that communicating something requires times, and you have to work on it. You can't present the raw data to an audience because the goal of storytelling is to connect with your audience. It's about bridging the gap between you and another person by creating a space of authenticity, vulnerability, and universal truth. You can't present raw data. You must elaborate them and present in a form that is understandable by your audience. And for this is the sentence that you always tell your story to an audience. Yes, and you can have different types of audience, but particular, you can have a general public, professionals, executives. Each of them has different objectives and a different goal. The general public want to learn or be informed or be entertained. The professionals want to understand, and executives want to make a decision. So, based on your audience, you have to tailor your story different pieces of your stories. And based on your audience, you will choose an appropriate language and tone. The language is the set of words, and the emotional expression conveyed to them is the tone. And also you have to use an appropriate context, which is the level of details to add to your story based on the cultural sensitivity of the audience. The story is always the same. The way you convey it changes based on the audience. So first you build your story, the structure. You can use the three-act structure and the story structure. The hero has a problem, but an audience prevents them from reaching it. And then you adapt your story to the audience, but the story is the same. You can't change the story because the story is extracted from the data. And you can find more information in my books. I thank you for your attention. And if you want, if you are interested, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you are interested in a collaboration on data storytelling, I am available to discuss new topics, new trends. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, Angelica has given us quite a bit of time for Q&A, which is awesome because we have quite a few cues in the Q&A. So I'm going to try to prioritize by what I see thumbs up on. So if anyone hasn't gone in and looked at the cues, go ahead and take a look and give it a thumbs up if you want to have it prioritized. But just starting right off, we have, how do you decide which cinematic technique, for example, a close-up or a montage, best fits a specific data story? And are there frameworks to match techniques to data type?
Yes, indeed, you have to recognize that when you, in the world of cinema, you have three levels of the story elaboration: the pre-production, the production, and the post-production. In the pre-production phase, you build the story, which is this role is usually done by the screenwriter. And this is what we have seen today, how to structure your story. The second part is the production with the director who takes specifically the camera, and there are the scenes. You implement the scenes. In the case of data storytelling, this is the phase when you implement your charts or the scenes of your stories through text, charts, graphs, or whatever you want. And in this case, you can use whatever tool you want. In the first and the third phase, which is the post-production phase, and this is the phase of the montage, you choose how to edit. You edit your story, and you can decide if you want to use a flashback technique, if you want to use a sequential order in your story. You can decide how to move from a scene to another. And this is the final part of the story where you set up everything. In the book, I discuss some popular techniques which are popular in the world of cinema, and I try to apply them to data storytelling. Yes, but this is the idea. First, you write the the story, then you implement, and finally you do the editing phase with the montage.
Got it. So this next question, I think, is in a similar vein, but has a slight twist to it. How do you tailor cinematic data stories for different audiences? So if you're going to present to an executive versus technical teams, and do your techniques change based on their emotional versus analytical preferences?
Yes, well, there are there are different types of the audience can be analyzed from different point of views. For example, I have discussed it in the presentation only the general public, the executives and the professionals. And based on the audience that you choose, you can work on different parts of the story and enhance these different parts based on the audience. For example, a general public don't need details. You don't say to general public, you don't give information about the numbers, for example, 3.546, very long numbers. They need rounded numbers to understand because they want to learn, they don't need the details. If you want to tailor your data to professionals, you need to give details because they know your topic and they want precise data. If instead you want to write you write for decision makers, you have to enable them to make decisions. So maybe you have to provide a clear situation of your data, but not too detailed because they don't need it. They know the topic, but they don't know the details, and they don't have the time to watch at your details.
Got it. No, that's really important to keep in mind. And it sounds like there's a lot more beyond, exploring
Yes.
what you've shared today, that we've got a lot more we can educate ourselves on. Here is a good question because maybe it will inspire you to tell us another story. What's one project you've worked on where cinematic storytelling either failed or succeeded beyond your expectations? And what kind of lessons did you learn? And you shared right up front, it lacked cinematic storytelling, but you shared that initial story about how you kind of tried to throw everything in, that you could about your poster, and it didn't lead to any success there.
Yes, indeed, there were many cases, but I think that every time is a different, every time you present is a different situation. And so you cannot know in advance if the audience will react positively to your story. You don't know. And so you can work hard and hope that your story goes well, but who knows?
Well, I guess pushing a little more on that specific question, though, do you have any examples of where you've really found success in telling a story? Say you really grabbed an audience's attention and got them to understand a point of view or what the data were saying, and make a decision based on that, or at least inform their decision based on that?
Yes, I had an example in very interesting. Once I was presenting to an audience of professionals. Everyone was writing, was tapping in their computer, and they were completely disinterested to my story. So I said, "Oh no, now nobody will listen to my story." But then I use the hook to awake the audience, and they listen to me. And I proposed something which was appreciated, but at the end, unfortunately, it wasn't applied. Unfortunately, but at the moment, the audience was awake. Okay. This is
Got it.
Yes, generally in my research, I don't have specifically people who make decisions because I don't work in a company where I have to present for making decisions. I present for further collaborations and yes, not for make decisions based on data.
Got it. You've got a lot of questions, so I want to make sure. Are you doing okay with the questions? Should keep them coming.
Yes.
All right. So let's see. Like I said, we have a lot, and I want to try to cover a number of question askers as well. What aspects do you see that are uniquely cinematic as opposed to data storytelling more broadly? So is there a way of separating the cinematic storytelling that's got unique features?
Yes, cinematic storytelling is fictional. You can invent. Um, the hero may exist or not, or not. In data storytelling, you can't have fiction. You must anchor your story to data, which is something which that has happened. The data is something real, which happened, and also and so your data story is anchored to something that happened and it's real. It's something, the data storytelling is something similar to creative nonfiction. This is another field of study, the creative nonfiction, where you take real events and then you use creativity to tell them. In the case of data storytelling, you start with data. In creative nonfiction, you start with the events.
Awesome. Here is a very broad question, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it. What is the future of data storytelling in this field?
I think that the future is AI.
Got it. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, because there is a fear about data storytelling and AI. I have also read some scientific papers where the authors made the interviews to different journalists, and they were scared by AI because first they don't know how to use it, and second they think that AI um, can't uh, uh, can't be creative for stories. But I don't think so, because my idea is that the story is up to you. You must extract your story from the data, but the AI can help you in this. If you don't know how to extract data, the hero, for example, from your data, you can ask the AI. AI is like I name it a housekeeper, because it helps you to do the repetitive tasks and similar jobs. But it can also help you to resonate and to think. And the second point is to use AI is as a you can use it to tailor your stories to different audiences. You have the basic structure, and you can ask AI to tailor your story for that specific audience. And finally, there is a third point. Third point, you can use AI in data storytelling is, I think this is disruptive, is using AI to access the quality of your story. Because you build this story, but you can ask the AI to assume the role of your audience and assess your story if they understand, to rate it, and so on. So the future is is AI, but maybe another future could also be, I could imagine more cinema in data storytelling, because also now there are different tools like Sora in the OpenAI Sora to generate videos and so on. Maybe, who knows?
Got it. All right. Well, this next question might actually pick up a little bit on where you just ended as far as a tactic of using AI to give you feedback is one way of going about these types of things. But how do you, or how should one, determine if they have the right problem? So for an example would be some people might not think it's a problem that the US has a smaller population. So, how are you tailoring your problem with the data that you have?
It depends on what you are searching from your data and also on your culture. Because I think that data, this is a philosophical concept. We move to the philosophy. Data is always interpreted. And maybe you can say that data is the truth, but in the reality, data, when it's collected, is interpreted. And so, based on your culture, on your experience, on your baggage, on what you want, you can define the problem. And the problem is the insight that you want, you extract from the data. When you analyze your data, you find something, an anomaly, a descending trend, a decreasing trend, a category, and you can find everything. And if this is a problem, you can tell a story. If it's not a problem, there is not a story. A story should have a problem. Otherwise, there is not a context. You are simply saying something, but not a story. You can do a presentation, but not a story.
Got it. That was a philosophical response, and we appreciate it. I have a question here that I like coming in. It says, I want to give my audience charts, but they're insisting on data grids or spreadsheets. How do I wake them up? How do I convince them to go about other forms of data storytelling and visualization?
They want spreadsheets. Maybe your audience is of professionals, and so they want details, and you have to give them details because they want them. But you can organize your spreadsheet as a story. The first tab is the hero. The second tab of your spreadsheet is the problem. And the third tab is the possible next steps. Everything can be organized as a story. Simple.
Nice. Okay, here's a tricky one. Could over-reliance on cinematic techniques weaken data communication ever? Is there any time we should avoid using storytelling or cinematic techniques?
Yes, the first moment when you can avoid data storytelling is the one that I have just said, when you don't have a problem. In this case, a simple presentation is sufficient. In the other cases, you should consider your audience. Maybe you have your audience, you know in advance that your boss hates stories, so don't tell them. Simply make a presentation. But the idea maybe could be, if you do a great job, you don't see that it's a story. It's simply an organization of your data, which better communicates what you have. The simplest version is hero problem solution.
Sounds good to me. I'm still just looking through, you've gotten so many questions. It says we've got 19 more. I don't think we're going to fit them all in, but are you doing good? Can you take another question here?
Yes.
All right. So I don't want to misinterpret this, but so I'm just going to read it. From a cinematic standpoint, do you build in a money shot? Example, the camera zooming out and up from Gary Cooper in the movie High Noon, where you see that he is all alone and no one has come to help him. If so, how might you do this using ChatGPT to generate what you were mentioning earlier in your presentation?
Yes, you can, but also I suggest you to check it and go to PowerPoint and use the PowerPoint effects, the transitions from a slide to another. They are exactly the techniques used in cinema for moving, for transition from a scene to another. And you can apply this. I discussed this part in my book at some point, and you can apply this transition to highlight some particular moments of your slides. For example, if you in cinema, if you close a scene with a black background, it means that the concept, the scene is ended. If you open a scene with a white background, it means that you are into another world, probably in the heaven or another dimension. And this can be used also in data storytelling to engage more your audience. And this is done during the editing phase, during the montage.
I'm thinking I'm going to change my background to pure white so that people think they're entering heaven every time I start the Zoom. All
This
right.
is a great idea, yes.
I'm going to see if we have one more. I know that we are coming up close to time, so I guess I want to make sure that you can fit this in. You've answered a lot of these within your responses already as well, it looks like. Okay, here's a quick one. Do you have any AI tools you specifically recommend for beginners to start experimenting with cinematic data storytelling?
Yes, I personally use ChatGPT for all the tasks. So I don't have a specific tool for cinema or something similar. But I have also started using Copilot integrated in Microsoft Excel. And I think it's fantastic, but it's not properly for data storytelling, but more it's focused for data analysis. But you can check it.
Got it. All right. Let's see. Do we have time for one more? Lots of people are saying thank you and that they're looking at your book or checking it out. So this is great.
Thank you. And I'd like a feedback on how to improve it for my research. Also, maybe you can connect with me on LinkedIn and propose new research topics, new things that you could see, because I am a researcher and I like to research, to do searches. And so I'm glad to pave the way towards new opportunities.
Excellent. And yes, I can tell from somebody who has worked with you that you appreciate feedback, you use feedback, and you're always looking to improve and enhance the content you're sharing with us, which this today was really, really great to hear you speak. Unfortunately, we have run out of time for today. Again, I'd like to thank Angelica for her informative presentation and insightful answers to the questions that we had. A special thanks to everyone for showing up and taking the time to attend and participate today. We did get a lot of questions around availability of the talk. It will be made available. It was recorded and it will be on learning.acm.org in the next few days. You can find announcements on upcoming talks and other ACM activities at the learning.acm.org and acm.org. And then also, please fill out the survey where you can suggest future topics or speakers, which you should see on your screen in a moment. And then on behalf of ACM, Angelica Lo Duca, and myself, Victor Yocco, thanks again for joining, and I hope you will join us again in the future. This concludes the talk. Bye, everyone.